Hi everyone. Recently there was some talk on Twitter about what makes Bitcoin Bitcoin, and somebody who I really respect and admire in the space, who's been involved for a long time, Eric Voorhees. I've invested in several of the different startups he's been involved with. Just the most recent one is Shapeshift.io. But he mentioned that he thought that Bitcoin Cash doesn't have the longest chain with the most proof of work, and therefore it couldn't possibly ever be Bitcoin. But I think that view is a bit short-sighted. I don't think that the longest chain with the most proof of work is the only criteria for what makes Bitcoin Bitcoin. I think that there's actually quite a few criteria that I've tried to lay out here that make Bitcoin Bitcoin. And I think one of the ones for me that's the most important is actually that it's peer-to-peer electronic cash system. And you can see I've made a little chart here where we've listed the different things. And I have the source, which is the Bitcoin white paper. And it's the very title of the white paper is that Bitcoin's a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, and it's very clear that that's the goal with the Bitcoin Cash people. It's not the goal with the Bitcoin Core people. In fact, they actually mock the idea of using Bitcoin as cash. And so Bitcoin Cash has it, Bitcoin Core doesn't. In the final column here, I have the weight as to how important each of those characteristics are. And some other ones here, as a screenshot right from the Bitcoin.org website. It says that Bitcoin is low fee. Well, Bitcoin Cash meets that characteristic. Bitcoin Core doesn't. Again, fast payments. Bitcoin Cash meets that characteristic. Bitcoin Core doesn't, and that's taken right from the very front page of the Bitcoin.org website. And if you click on it, actually, we'll see how good my screencasting skills are here. There it is. So, and we can see on the old one, it said fast peer-to-peer transactions with low processing fees, and then currently it says peer-to-peer transactions with fraud protection. So that's a pretty darn big difference. So anyhow, reliable payments. That was right there on the front page of Bitcoin.org again. Bitcoin Cash has it. Bitcoin Core doesn't. On-chain scaling, right? It's right there outlined by Satoshi that the Bitcoin was meant to scale on-chain. Bitcoin Cash has it, Bitcoin Core doesn't. Non-reversible payments. Satoshi, again, was pointing out how that should be the case. Here I have a thread with Satoshi's own words. See the snack machine thread. I outline how payment processor could verify the payments well enough, much lower than credit card frauds, in something like 10 seconds or less. If you don't believe me or don't get it, I don't have time to try to convince you. Sorry, and sorry I didn't fit that in the whole part of the screen that I'm recording. But again, non-reversible payments, that's clearly outlined by Satoshi from day one. Bitcoin Cash has it. Bitcoin Core is openly hostile to it. The white paper talks about how a chain of digital signatures is very important. It's right there in the white paper. SegWit alters that, so you can make an argument that Bitcoin Cash still has that, Bitcoin Core doesn't. The opcode's enabled, right? Satoshi was very clear about Bitcoin having the ability to do scripting. Bitcoin Cash has that, all coming back just like it was meant to from day one. Bitcoin Core has been hostile to that. Right there in the white paper, SHA-256, one CPU, one vote. I think an argument can be made that both Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Core both have that aspect. And the final one on my list here is the longest chain with the most proof of work. There's no doubt about it. Bitcoin Core has that, Bitcoin Cash doesn't. But again, I think that's a very important characteristic, but I don't think it's the only characteristic. And in the final column here, we have the different things. And for me, I think a very strong argument that Bitcoin is meant to be a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, and anything that's not a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, like, I think that's not really Bitcoin. And so my current rating here, I said that that's 5, and I gave everything else 1, and then the longest chain with the most proof of work, because that's so important, that's 5 points as well. So we have everything of 1, 1, 1, 1, and then 5 and 5 for the first and last ones. And when you total that all up, Bitcoin Cash is 68% of the characteristics that make Bitcoin, compared to Bitcoin Core is 32%. So anyhow, I'll make the link for this spreadsheet available. Anybody can download it. It's like, even if you say the longest chain with the most proof of work is 10 times more important than every other characteristic there that I've listed, it still puts Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Core on pretty close to even footing. And so, again, the point of this video is just to say that the longest chain with the most proof of work, while it's a very important characteristic, it's not the only characteristic. And we saw that firsthand happen with Monero just recently. Some ASIC miners came out for Monero that would very clearly give the original Monero chain, it would make it the longest chain with the most proof of work. But for whatever reason, a bunch of people decided they didn't like that, so they changed the proof of work for Monero. So now Monero is forked, and there's a new chain that very clearly is not the longest chain with the most proof of work, yet everybody's still calling that Monero. I suspect even Shapeshift.io is calling that longest chain of Monero. That new chain that's not the longest chain with the most proof of work, I suspect they're still calling it Monero. So if they can do it for Monero, why the double standard with Bitcoin Cash? And I think a very strong argument can be made that Bitcoin Cash has more of the characteristics that make Bitcoin Bitcoin than Bitcoin Core. And that's not to say that Bitcoin Cash is the one and true only version of Bitcoin. I don't think Bitcoin Core is the one and true only version of Bitcoin. They both have some amount of Bitcoinness to both of them. And to be honest, I think probably the peer-to-peer electronic cash system is just as important, if not maybe even more important than the longest chain with the most proof of work. And so anyhow, as I've made in the spreadsheet here, I think a really strong argument can be made that Bitcoin Cash has more Bitcoinness than Bitcoin Core. At the end of the day, people have to think for yourself, but calling it funny names like Bcash, that's not an argument as to whether or not it's Bitcoin or not. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's Bitcoin. What matters is if it actually works as a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. And peer-to-peer electronic cash systems are incredibly useful, and more people are going to start to use them. And that's what we're seeing happen with Bitcoin Cash. Big giant businesses that used to only accept BTC stopped accepting Bitcoin Core and have started accepting Bitcoin Cash. That's a really, really bullish sign for the ecosystem. And the exchange rate of Bitcoin Cash to Bitcoin Core has been going up in value. Bitcoin Cash has been increasing in value at a faster rate than Bitcoin Core has. Bitcoin Cash has been gaining more mining power at a faster rate than Bitcoin Core has. It won't take too much longer for those trends to continue to where Bitcoin Cash is worth more with more mining power, with a longer chain with more proof of work than Bitcoin Core. I think there's a very likely chance that that's going to happen in the future. And if you're not sure or you don't like Bitcoin Cash, that's fine. Don't use it. Nobody's forcing you to use Bitcoin Cash. It's a voluntary thing. But doing name calling, that's not an argument. It's just juvenile stuff. So if you don't like Bitcoin Cash, that's fine. If you don't like some altcoin, don't use them. If you like them, feel free to use them. It's a big, big world out there. Feel free to use whatever you want. But I would encourage all of you, if you're not sure or on the fence, go to free.bitcoin.com and you can get like 10 cents worth of Bitcoin Cash for free. We'll send it to anyone anywhere in the world using our Bitcoin faucet. That sort of thing is not possible on Bitcoin Core anymore. It would cost more than the 10 cents to send it to you. And then even once you've received the 10 cents, it's no longer spendable because the amount of money that it would cost to spend that 10 cents is more than the 10 cents is worth anyhow. So anyhow, visit free.bitcoin.com to give it a try. And you'll see why Bitcoin Cash is incredibly useful as a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. And give Bitcoin Core a try too. I implore you to give Bitcoin Core a try, and you'll see that it's not useful as a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. And by the very definition given of Bitcoin in the very title of the Bitcoin white paper, Bitcoin Cash has more Bitcoinness about it than Bitcoin Core does. So I don't think it's fair to try and strip away the Bitcoin name from the Bitcoin Cash name. Anyhow, thank you guys for watching my very first screencast. I'll try to do more of these in the future. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but I'm sure I'll do an even better job in the future. So tell your friends, tell your family, Bitcoin Cash very clearly is Bitcoin. That's not to say that Bitcoin Core has no characteristics of Bitcoin left, but I think Bitcoin Cash has many more of them. Give it a try today. Learn more at Bitcoin.com. Thank you.